we feeling this morning? Well, I am excited too. It's so wonderful to see so many friends in the audience today. My name is Ann Kang, and I'm the Minister for Municipal Affairs and Immigration, and I will be your MC this exciting morning here in Terrace. It's an honor to be joining you today on the territory of the Tsimshian peoples. And thank you so much to Coast Mountain College for having us here, and thank you so much to the President, Lori Wei, for the preparation with your community here as well. And as I flew in this morning, I saw how beautiful the lands are here, the air and the beautiful trees. So I really do give my hands up and thanks so much to Tsimshian peoples for being stewards of this beautiful land. I would also like to acknowledge those in attendance today. We have Premier David Eby, the Honorable Nathan Cullen, Minister of Land, Water and Resource Stewardship, Mayor Terrace, Mayor Gladys Atrill, Mayor of Smithers, you're all in different orders. Mayor Pond, Mayor of Prince Rupert, Jennifer Rice, MLA of North Coast, and Mayor Sean Bui Taj, Mayor of Terrace. As well, I see in the audience today, we have so many mayors in attendance and so many area directors. Thank you so much for being here. And as well, other guests who are so excited about what we're going to announce today. I'm so happy that we're able to be here for another important announcement. Building strong, sustainable economy is a priority to our government. And British Columbia is an incredible place that we call home. And as a recent BC Stats report confirms, our province is experiencing its highest population growth in 50 years. And we need to be prepared to embrace all the opportunities that come with that growth, not just in our largest urban regions, but also in our regional centers and resource communities. We are listening to rural voices to ensure that we are all working together to address the challenges Northwest communities are facing. And we are committed to ensuring that people in Northern BC have the services they need to support economic growth in their communities. Now, it's my great pleasure to invite someone who does not need any introduction at all, Premier David Eby, to the podium to discuss how we're supporting people living in the Northwest.
Is that too much? It feels. Now I know Anne's perspective of me. No, well, I'm going to lower it a little bit, but I got it. I'm not licensed, but thanks so much for joining us here today. It's great to see you, and it's wonderful to be part of this announcement. My colleagues behind me, Ann Kang, Nathan Cullen, Jen Rice, have been advocating for this day and working to get it done for a long time. I want to thank them right off the hop for their amazing work on this. Now, that's a little bit. Now, I know I've heard the rumors, and I just want to say it's not true. I do not prefer the city of Terrace just because City Hall is on Eby Street. That is completely incorrect. But I do have a special place in my heart for Terrace and for the Northwest generally. It is a beautiful and amazing part of our province. Every time I visit here, the people are so welcoming, so kind. The people here are independent, entrepreneurial, they're fierce, and they're friendly and welcoming. And it is a great place to put down roots. One of my wife's good friends, post-medical school, she and her family moved to Terrace because they love the outdoor lifestyle and they love being here, and happily they are both doctors. And so I know the attraction of this part of the world for so many people. One of the realities, though, of the shifting nature of BC's economy and how it works is that resource development in the Northwest and the fact that this is big part of the economic engine of our province is taking place outside of the centers where people live. The tax base for the major employers is not connected at all to the cities and the communities where people who work there live. And that disconnect has meant that prosperity is being generated in this part of the world, but that the cities and the communities that host the people who generate that prosperity haven't shared in it in the way that they should have. And that means difficult conversations with mayors and the provincial government. You know, we set up a growing communities fund, $1 billion for municipalities across the province to support them with critical infrastructure that they need. And I sat down with Mayor Bouitache and I said, Sean, this has got to be so exciting for you and Terrace. You know, you got this money. What are you going to do with the money? And he said, we're going to cap our landfill. I was like, what? Oh, that's so heartbreaking. Here's some money that other communities are able to use for community centers, for arenas, for parks, for amenities. And Terrace's situation, because the people who live here work in industry that's located outside of the city, and the tax base is not here, it means that you've got to use the money to cap the landfill. When I met with Mayor Pond and talked about the situation with water pipes in Prince Rupert, you know, I met the guy who spent Christmas, instead of spending Christmas with his family, he spent Christmas saving the water system about 1.5 years ago in Prince Rupert from total collapse. This is one of the major ports in North America. This is a massive economic driver of not just the Northwest, not just the province of BC, but the entire country. And the water system almost collapsed because the pipes are so old that they leak. And when they leak quickly, if the water level drops, the pipes will just collapse flat and the whole water system is done. So that is the state of infrastructure and the challenges that have faced local government leaders here for far, far too long. And it was very obvious to me as my colleagues came and pointed out these things again and again that we needed to do something to fix it. And that's what today's announcement is about. Budget 2024 allocates $250 million, $250 million annually to the RBA. And yeah, that's not right. Budget 2024. I was like, why are those mayors cheering so loudly? Let me check my notes here. Budget 2024 allocates $250 million to the RBA. Over 5 years. They looked way too happy. For roads, sewers, drinking water, all the things that support the people that live in the communities that help make our province go. We're supporting residents here. We're supporting a major economic engine for our province, the people of the Northwest. I'd like to thank the mayors for their advocacy on this. I still, when I see them even today, I'm like, oh God, they're going to ask me about RBA. It will pass eventually. Together, we're ensuring that people get the services they rely on here in the Northwest and right across the province. I'll just close by saying I met William and Austin just before we came out here. They're studying heavy-duty mechanics here at the college. They're in grade 12, and they're dividing their time between their high school studies, working at heavy-duty mechanic shops in the community, and here at the college. Now, if these guys are any indication of the future of the Northwest, we're in good hands, and it's supporting them when they're putting down roots here, when they want to start families, that they have amazing communities that are strong and resilient. That's what our government's all about, and we're so glad to have local government partners that share that vision and to share the stage with them here today. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Premier, for your remarks. This is such an exciting news for people living in the Northwest BC, and I want to thank everyone involved for their tireless work and advocacy to make this work a reality. So once again, thank you so much to all the mayors, the advocacy group, and as well the co-chairs for all your work. Another champion that you have in your community is MLA Jennifer Rice. She's the MLA for North Coast, as many of us would know, and I quote her because she inspires me all the time with her passion when we speak about the RBA. She said, "This has been the result of so much intergovernmental cooperation and collaboration and persistence with passion advocates from all levels." So I do want to thank her especially for the work, and as well for my colleague and my predecessor at Municipal Affairs for all his work and guidance in getting us to this place. I know that since I became the Minister for Municipal Affairs, I've had countless conversations with members of the RBAs, and sometimes I go, yes, gosh, they're back. They're back at the legislature maybe once every week. It feels that way. And so local governments from this area and all members of RBA, that this new funding is really greatly needed. Working with RBA communities to get this new RBA funding in place has been a priority for me, as it is part of our government's efforts to build a strong and sustainable economy in all parts of British Columbia. This new RBA funding will better address the unique infrastructural needs of each community in this large and diverse region as we all continue to grow together in a sustainable way. And I'm so excited to see how BC's Northwest communities use this funding to make real difference for people in this region, which is being reshaped by a new generation of resource development. As I mentioned, I've had numerous conversations with members of the RBA, one especially a lot, and Texas a lot, Mayor Sean Buitaj. It is my pleasure to invite Mayor Sean Buitaj to speak his passion.
Sebastien Gan. I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered here on the traditional territory of the Tsimshian people, the Kitsim-Kalim and the Kitsilas. I would also like to acknowledge my co-chairs, Mayor Attrell and Mayor Pond. I would also like to acknowledge our predecessors as well. Bill Miller, Stacey Tyers, Barry Pages, Phil Germuth, Lee Brain, Chris Olson, Shane Breenan, and everyone else who worked tirelessly to get us to this point. Today is a historical day for Northwest BC. For 10 years, the Northwest Resource Benefit Alliance has been lobbying the provincial government for a resource revenue sharing agreement. In September of 2019, at the UBCM convention, then Premier John Horgan committed to getting a revenue sharing agreement done with the RBA. This led to the Northern Capital Planning Grant, where $100 million came in 2020 and $50 million came in 2021. After the $100 million, the world spiraled into unprecedented times, with COVID-19 putting all focus on the pandemic, with resource and attention put into saving lives. The RBA was parked for over a year. In the spring of 2022, then Minister of Municipal Affairs Nathan Cullen met with the entire RBA in Terrace and put this discussion back on track. Moving forward, September of 2022, at the UBCM convention, the Northwest Resource Benefit Alliance and the provincial government signed a memorandum of understanding to negotiate and get a deal done. 17 months later, many trips to Victoria, I am proud to say that this government has kept its promise, committing $250 million to Northwest BC over the next 5 years. This agreement is a game changer for our communities. Today, Northwest BC can raise its head again. We can walk a little taller, and we'll be able to start building our communities back. We'll be able to replace aging infrastructure that we had no ability to replace before. Roads can be repaired, water lines replaced, sewer lines rebuilt, sidewalks fixed, bike lanes made, downtowns can be revitalized, and many other needed infrastructure projects can be done. This agreement is not something to us. It is everything to us. On behalf of Masset, Port Clements, Dodge and Guides, Prince Rupert, Port Ed, Kitimat, Terrace, Stewart, Hazelton, New Hazelton, Smithers, Telkwa, Houston, Grand Isle, Fort St. James, Burns Lake, Fraser Lake, Vanderhoof, North Coast Regional District, the Regional District of Kitimat-Stikine, the Regional District of Balti-Nechako, I say to you, Premier Eby, Toyuksak Noon, thank you. You have been our champion since becoming Premier, our friend and someone who cares about our communities. And to you, Minister Kang, Minister Collin, MLA Rice, and everyone here, Toyuksak Newsom, thank you all. As my good friend Chris Olson would say, the North is better when we work together, and boy did we work together. Thank you all for being here on this monumental day for Northwest BC. Namalgat Needsism, we will see you all later.
Thank you so much, Mayor Bouitaj. Thank you so much for the work that you and your co-chairs, your predecessors, everyone here providing your advocacy and your voice, and as well my colleagues and the Premier. This has been an amazing journey, and today is a result of that. This new agreement we're announcing today builds on our investments in the region. As the Premier may have already prelude the words that I will be saying, we have made so many different investments across British Columbia at different times. Through the Northern Healthy Community Fund, we've invested more than $18 million so far in 100 projects that strengthen services in Northern BC communities experiencing rapid economic growth. The Northern Health and Communities Fund is for communities directly adjacent to the LNG Canada and Coastal GasLink projects that are currently facing increasing needs due to rapid economic growth. Since 2019, the BC government has also provided $150 million in grants through the Northern Capital and Planning Grant to help local governments with planning and infrastructure improvements. And last year, we provided the $1 billion Growing Community Fund, which is helping all municipalities and regional districts throughout the province to address their specific infrastructure demands, to prepare their communities for future growth, and to build the communities, the amenities, and the services needed to support new home construction. These combined investments are helping us keep the North vital, supported, and prepared for all the opportunities that come with growth and rapid economic development. I would like to thank everyone for joining us here today, and a special thanks again to all of our partners, the mayors, local government colleagues in attendance, and we are so grateful for the incredible work that everyone has done in your communities here and every day. I look forward to hearing from you and working with many of you to support communities throughout the province further so that BC's bright future is shared with everyone. And as we prepare to wrap up, I'm going to pass the mic over to the moderator to take questions from the media, and after that, we'll be doing a group photo.
For reporters on the line, our apologies for some technical issues with the line earlier. We hope they're better now. You can enter the queue by pressing *1. When called on, please unmute and come off speakerphone so that we can hear you properly here in the room. And we're going to start with reporters on the phone first, then come back to the room. Our first question is from Rob Shaw of Czech News. We can't hear you yet, Rob. We're going to just take, the call has dropped, so we're going to check and just see if there are any reporters in the room who have questions.
I'll just assume I know what the question was.
Why are you so great? Why is this so
Obviously, this is, yes, a hugely successful announcement today. Oh, I'm hearing a hint of Rob, but just that.
So we're going to go to the reporters in the room. If you could please say your name and outlet.
Oh. Okay.
It's Rod. I'm from the Terrace. This isn't quite the Regional Benefits Alliance plan, which was for a percentage of resource taxation for each year. So can you explain the thinking behind this big provisions now instead of that annual percentage?
Yeah, thanks. The announcement is a fixed amount over 5 years. It allows for planning for these local governments to know that they're getting a certain amount over this time. It allows for borrowing for capital projects, so they understand how much money they're getting each year. It's not going to fluctuate up and down depending on resource prices, and it provides some certainty. The goal here is to make sure that local governments have the support that they need and that it's consistent to ensure that they're able to support local communities. I know that this will not stop the mayors from coming and asking for additional support in different projects. Don't pretend that it answers all of their prayers and hopes for every aspect of what they want to see in the community. This is just one more step towards how we support local governments. Jen, do you want to take anything else?
Thanks for the opportunity. Okay, I was just reflecting how when I first was elected as a city councillor, I believe that was 2010 or 2011, I don't recall, and we were discussing essentially what the RBA, the Resource Benefits Alliance, was. I don't believe it actually had that name yet, but that was such a learning for me as a brand new councillor to understand how little tax revenue we had to just maintain basic infrastructure. So getting to this point today, I'm so delighted, because as Premier Eby relayed in December of 2022, when I was driving home Christmas Eve, and there was a huge geyser in a storm with freezing rain, a team of public works people with like frost all stuck on their faces on Christmas Eve, they were putting out fires, which were geysers of water through our leaky pipes. Sadly, that wasn't the only leak. There were multiple leaks that day. And it's just a telling story of the fact that we don't have enough revenue from all the economic development happening in the region to actually just do basic pipe maintenance. And so I know for a lot of common folk who've been asking me, like, what is RBA? What does this mean? What's revenue sharing? I know all the councillors and directors and mayors here know what it means. To explain that with a recent grant, we are replacing the water infrastructure in Prince Rupert, but now with the RBA, with this consistent funding that is predictable, the city of Prince Rupert will be able to maintain those pipes so that in 40, 50 years from now, there's not a whack of politicians standing here with the same dilemma with infrastructure challenges. So the fixed amount to me is really important. It allows, I'm just speaking on my own community, I live in Prince Rupert, but this is for everyone, the 21 communities in the Northwest. It allows to maximize borrowing capacity. There's no string attached to the funding, and most government funding has a string attached, and this is allowing local governments to use the funds in the most appropriate way for their communities. Sorry, I took too long. You regret giving me the microphone there, Premier. But I'll say one last thing. Yeah. Okay, I'll go.
Sure.
Okay, it's not connected to the RBA, but it is connected to April 1st. The federal leader of the opposition has challenged you not to go along with raising the carbon tax or carbon pay for the April 1st. I sent you a letter, actually, encouraging you to listen to make life more affordable for communities. Wondering if you have an answer to that.
Yeah, thanks. I received a letter from the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, this morning. He is advising that British Columbia should let the federal government administer the carbon tax instead of administering it ourselves. Now, I'm the Premier of British Columbia. I have to operate in British Columbia with the facts that are in front of me and the impacts on British Columbians. We're governing here. The decisions that we make affect families across the province. And the fact that we face is that if we followed Mr. Poilievre's suggestion, that there would be less money returned to British Columbians after April 1st than there would be if the federal government administered this increase directly. I don't live in the Pierre Poilievre campaign office and baloney factory. I live in British Columbia. I'm the Premier. Decisions have consequences. And I know that Mr. Poilievre knows that his suggestion would leave less money for British Columbians. But that's not his priority. Fair enough. This is not the only suggestion from Mr. Poilievre that I think will struggle contact with reality. He and Mr. Rustad, the leader of the Conservative Party of British Columbia, in the middle of a measles outbreak in Quebec, measles cases in British Columbia, are advocating that unvaccinated health workers be given free rein in our hospitals and in our long-term care homes. Let me be clear. Measles kills babies and toddlers. That is reality. Unvaccinated health workers, if there's a measles outbreak in British Columbia and it's spreading in community, will bring measles into our hospitals. I am certain that if Mr. Poilievre succeeds in being elected Prime Minister of Canada, that I will find a way to have a working relationship with him. But I hope that if he does attain that office, that he bases his decisions and his work with our province on reality and on the lived experience of British Columbians instead of on ideology and campaigns, because that is not what British Columbians want. They want to be safe in the hospital, they want support with affordability, and it matters whether or not the province administers this, and it matters whether or not unvaccinated health workers get access to our hospitals in terms of their safety and affordability for British Columbians.
Troubleshooting here. We're going to go to Rob Shaw, Check News on speakerphone.
I'm just going to pivot a bit. The letter from the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, asking you to not increase the rate. If you just got asked that question, I guess the follow-up would be, you're sort of increasingly standing alone in the country with 7 other premiers feeling the opposite way for April 1st. And is it tenable for you to stand alone in the face of that movement to not raise the rate?
Yeah, just let's be clear about what the letter says and what it doesn't say. Mr. Poilievre is not talking about not increasing the rate. He knows it's federal law. The rate will increase for all Canadians on April 1st. He's saying, don't administer this program. Let the federal government administer it for British Columbia. If we did that, that would mean that less money would go to British Columbians' pockets after the increase. After April 1st, we will be returning more money than the amount of the increase to British Columbians.
We're going to go next to Fran Ganner of Northern Beat. Just one moment.
Thanks, Fran. I don't know why the finance minister keeps trying to call me.
Actual question here. And sorry if I missed it. As you know, the audio is sort of been a bit dicey, but just wondering, has there been a determination on when the money will start flowing, where, and like how much is moved to which communities?
We're working with local government officials right now on a formula to divide the RBA amount among different communities. We're hopeful we're able to reach a decision collaboratively together at the table that works for all communities. Realistically, the province may have to step in and say, this is how we're going to do it. It's hard for any local leader to say, okay, well, we'll give more to this community than to my home community. We don't want to put local leaders in that position. We've said to them, look, if it's too challenging at the table to do this, we'll do it at the provincial level and we'll take responsibility for the apportionment. But if there were ever a group of local leaders who could get together and figure out a way forward, it's the leaders here in the Northwest. This is the most collaborative, cooperative group of leaders I've ever seen. Their campaign and their work together on this for many years, I think there is certainly a possibility they'll come up with a formula. Our goal is to get this money out the door as quickly as possible so that local governments can use it. We know that there are communities in crisis that are counting on this, communities like Fraser Lake. Making sure that we're supporting those communities is critically important. So we'll get this done as quickly as we can. Nathan, do you have anything to add on?
Sure. Offering a politician an opportunity at a microphone.
I can relate.
The two things I'd say is that collaboration you speak of, Premier, and that has been demonstrated for more than a decade by our communities, that historically, we can admit, sometimes we have our little tussles, especially around hockey season. I'm looking at you, Terrace and Kitimat. That collaboration has been the strength of what this is. To bring in a legacy piece like the Resource Benefit Alliance that lasts long beyond our terms, likely as serving the public as elected people, is something I hope that we all can feel proud of. That recognition, and as a friend said earlier today, the feeling of being seen as local governments, as communities by the province, and the respect that comes from being seen. I want to recognize Taylor Bachrach, our MP as well, who's been an advocate with us on this long journey together, and all the work that we're going to do together and what comes next when we actually start to spend this money and leverage it for more and more. I just can't wait to see how we're going to make our communities even more beautiful places to live. We are not glorified work camps. We are homes, we are communities, we are proud. And the work that you folks demonstrated together of getting a commitment from the province, and if I can say this to you, Premier, of a leader making the commitment and following through on the commitment is a breath of fresh air in our world of cynicism. It's nice to see. Thanks.
I didn't know he was going to say that. I didn't.
No.
That's not why I invited him up. But well said, Nathan. Well said.
Fran, do you have a follow-up?
Thank you. Apologies to the room. This is on a different topic for the Premier. Premier, just in light of the fact that now 4 RCMP detachments have reported suspected diverted safe supply in the drug seizures, I'm wondering if this is not widespread and if you will join Alberta in calling for a chemical identifier to be added to the safe supply.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Here in the Northwest, I know this is a part of British Columbia that's been really disproportionately impacted by toxic drug overdoses, the death of kids, the death of loved ones, and the devastation is huge here in the Northwest. The best advice we have from addiction doctors is that prescribed alternatives give them an additional tool to support people, keep them alive, engage them with the healthcare system, and get them into treatment so they can rebuild their lives. It's an important component of our provincial strategy to prevent these deaths. And at the same time, that doesn't mean we need to accept the risk of diversion. The idea that these drugs, like any other medicines, could be diverted away from the person they were prescribed for. The vast amount of hydromorphone in the province, the overwhelming volume of it, is prescribed to people for pain, for arthritis, and not for prescribed alternatives. It doesn't matter to someone who uses those drugs that could cause an overdose as well what the origin point was of the diversion. I am committed, the Minister of Public Safety is committed, the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction is committed, the Minister of Health is committed to working with the pharmacy regulator, to working with addictions doctors, to working with health professionals to make sure we are addressing every risk of diversion that we can, to minimize that risk and ensure that British Columbians are safe and that we preserve this treatment option for people that are struggling with addiction. We're looking at a number of options to ensure that we're realizing that goal. And one of the recommendations, for example, that Bonnie Henry brought forward in her report was kind of an oversight body to monitor the program. It's something that we're looking at. We don't take the concerns lightly, even if the RCMP says there's not a widespread issue of diversion. The goal for us is zero diversion, and we're going to pursue that goal.
Our next question is from John Hernandez, CBC.
Hey there, just a couple on a related topic here. I didn't quite catch the end just because of the phone line issue of your previous answer, but just regarding diversion of safer supply, do you have a sense of how a possible oversight committee would work? Would that be through the health authorities, or are there any other ways to ensure oversight within the healthcare system?
We have a number of tools right now available to the province and bodies that are overseeing prescribers as well as pharmacies to ensure that British Columbians are protected. We will work with those bodies to identify how we can most effectively as a province prevent diversion and identify it early. I think that leaders, certainly from the pharmacy world, who we trust with these medications and who we rely on to identify fraud or other risk of diversion when it happens, addictions doctors who are working with people and employ their own methods, such as urine screening, to determine whether or not the drugs are ending up where they're supposed to, as well as law enforcement, so that we have early notice of any issues, are obvious candidates for this group. But I don't want to limit artificially any particular category or group of people that should be represented. The work is underway at the policy level, and we're looking to see what we can do to ensure that the oversight is everything that we expect it to be.
John, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, on the same subject, just in the PHO report on safer supply released in February, it was acknowledged that diversion is common. But the report said that one of the reasons is because people give their safer supply drugs away to help others that they see in need. The report also highlighted that there have been more seized by police since 2020. So if more people are trying to access prescription drugs on the streets, does that not simply mean that these drugs need to be made more accessible?
There are those who suggest that we should broaden the categories of prescribed alternatives to include street drugs like crystal meth, crack cocaine, and other drugs. We will not do that. We are not going to do that. That is not something that the government has any interest in. What we are interested in doing is the best we can to keep people alive and get them into treatment. That's why we've opened hundreds of additional treatment beds in just the last 6 months. That's why we have a new pilot program at St. Paul's Hospital that we hope to roll out across the province, where people who overdose and end up in the emergency room can go right into detox and right into treatment on the site of the hospital without having to call a number or go somewhere else. It's why we're partnering with the First Nations Health Authority to ensure that there are Indigenous, appropriate treatment options for people across the province. And so we're doing all we can to keep people alive. Those who are calling for us to expand the program in those directions, we're not headed there.
And that's all the time we have today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.